Yo, what's going on guys, DubWobs here. Welcome back to a brand new video here on the channel. Today, we just got gameplay of Blade in Marvel Rivals. Coming in Season 3.5, Blade should be the brand new duelist. And yes, it seems he is going to be a duelist from the gameplay we have leaked today from Rivals Info. So let's get into this gameplay, let's break it down and see how it matches the leaked ability names and descriptions we have for him. So this is it right here. We can see Blade's model. He has 300 health in this build. Now, I assume most things here are how he's going to be in release, because it seems someone has their hands on this kind of release build. And yeah, 300 health. So he's going to be a duelist, not a Vanguard. I mean, people are hoping he was a Vanguard, but yes, it looks like two duelists in Season 3.5. So first up, we have his sword in his hand and a sword on his back, which I think might be part of one of his other abilities. We can see here, he's fighting another Blade, and he, just starts slashing with his sword. So this is his primary fire, his sword that he can just use melee attacks with, and he attacks pretty fast. It seems to do, what's that, 25, 50, about 45 damage. 45 damage with one slash, seems okay. And it looks like this is how his attack goes. It can go kind of really fast. It's a weird kind of combo. It's a bit like a Spider-Man combo where you hit in kind of weird succession. I don't know if the person here is holding down melee and the first one's slow and then the next ones are fast. But it looks like he does one quick one. Then his second is like a double. And you can see just after those 4 hits that they did, they've done about 165 damage with 4 slashes, which does add up to about 40 damage per hit. But yeah, like I said, we can kind of gauge the speed of which the attacks. We don't know exactly how the player is inputting, if they're just holding down here, and this is just how his combo works. But then we see this spinning attack right at the end. Now, at first, you might think this is the final combo of his melee, and it does a pretty high amount of damage. It looks like it does about 125 damage and knocks the player that you're attacking back. Now, what I believe this is his shift ability, the step and chop, because if you're wielding your sword and you used his shift ability, he will slash an enemy and apply to reduce movement speed. So what it looks like is happening here is the player is using his shift ability. As you can see, it does a rapid chop. He uses both swords, spins them around, knocks the enemy back, and I assume here the enemy has a slow effect. And we don't really see anything visually on him here, so I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like it's that ability. That is my best guess. And then next, we see him activate the Blood Liberation ability. It looks like it lasts for 8 seconds, and you can see him kind of amped up. He has this red vampire effect on him. And then he attacks the enemy. He has 8 seconds of doing these attacks, and I can't tell if the attack ends up doing more damage. It doesn't really show. But what I do notice is that this seems to be highlighting the enemy through walls. Because if you look, when this activates, obviously the enemy already has a red outline as we're standing right in front of them. But the second this activates, you can see the overlay on Blade changes slightly. You can see areas around him have this kind of red glowing effect, and especially on his cloak at the back, you can see it's clearly highlighting him more, which makes me believe the Blood Liberation ability, while active for 8 seconds, does let you see enemies through walls, which will help you capitalize on your kills, as the enemies will not be able to escape you. Also, from description, the Blood Liberation ability turns all your health into Dracula's blood, and you cannot be healed at this time, but you can restore Dracula's blood by inflicting damage. And here, that makes sense because his health bar highlights red. We have the Dracula vampire logo over his health bar. This means exactly that. You can't be healed during this time, but you have lifesteal. We've seen lifesteal is coming for Wolverine's team up with Phoenix, and it seems lifesteal is also coming with Blade. Unfortunately, Blade has full health here, so we don't get to see the rate at which you heal, but I assume it will be pretty high since you cannot heal while in this ability. So for these 8 seconds, you can see the enemies through walls, and you have lifesteal as you deal attack. As I said, we can't see if his attacks are faster or if they deal more damage. This is just the gameplay that we have for now, but still a very awesome ability. Next up, we have him using his hunting shotgun. So this is kind of his secondary fire. You can see when he has the shotgun out, he still has his sword in his hand, because I imagine if you click melee while with the shotgun out, you will then still use the sword. But you can switch to the shotgun here, and you can just deal this amount of damage. He only shoots headshots, which is a bit annoying. I'd love to see what the normal damage looks like. But regardless, a headshot does about 85 damage, which is pretty nice. And this was described as a long-range shotgun. As you can see, it doesn't seem to have like a bunch of pellets shooting outwards. so I feel like it will still be pretty good at long range. And because we're only seeing this at a very close range, based on the description we had leaked, there is still a chance that this shotgun works like Roadhog does in Overwatch. So for a mid-range distance, it will just shoot one very small projectile that can deal a lot of damage like this, dealing 85 damage to the head. But then after a certain range, the pellet itself explodes and then becomes a bunch of mini pellets that will deal damage as shrapnel at very long distances. Obviously, from the gameplay, we don't get to see that. We only see it close range, so that is still a possibility when Blade releases. And then what we see here is his shift ability again, but when you're using your shotgun. So his shift ability, if you're wielding your gun, will make you shoot an enemy and apply reduced healing. So I believe that is this ability. Once again, if you press shift with this shotgun out, it looks like he slashes the enemy and shoots them at the same time, dealing crazy amounts of damage. I mean, we can't actually see the amount of damage, which is unfortunate, but that is that ability in action. So that is the sneak peek of gameplay that we have thanks to Rivals info. Honestly, not loads to go off, but a lot of confirmation here on some of those abilities, especially showing us that he's a duelist. He's kind of primarily melee focused. He has a bit of range with that shotgun, but you're going to want to be getting up close and personal. You have some pretty good survivability with that blood liberation, because if you're hitting your damage, you will be healing, which is very cool. Now, what we didn't get to see here was the ultimate, and if everything's still the same as it was leaked by Rivals info, then the ultimate is described as the following. After building up your strength for a short period of time, you quickly unsheath your sword and charge forward while releasing a powerful chop and leaving Dracula's sword frantically chopping the area behind you. So the ultimate should be this huge kind of damage dealing ability. You can charge forward, hitting everyone in the process and damaging them constantly in the trails that you leave behind. It does sound pretty cool. And for more survivability, he is going to have a damage block ability. Seems his right click will allow you to use Dracula's sword to resist incoming damage. This will most likely be very similar to Doomfist in Overwatch, how he can hold his arm in front of him to deal significantly reduced damage, and that seems to be the same with Blades. We also had a leak that he has a team up with Cloak and Dagger. Apparently it's going to be the same as the Moon Knight one, which I think makes sense. That will also add to his survivability because it allows him to shroud himself in a cloak, making him invisible, but also giving him even more passive healing, allowing him to move through the backline with more ease, which I think makes a lot of sense now that we've seen his playstyle from the leaked gameplay. So are you excited for Blade in Season 3.5? We also have here a kind of early look at what his MVP screen might potentially look like. And while this is clearly a very early work in progress, it's cool to see more of Blade. The more we get to see about Blade, the more excited I am for him. So are you disappointed that he's going to be a duelist, or do you think now you've seen some of his gameplay, he's going to be pretty cool? I think 2 duelists in a row is kind of crazy, but we are getting a new hero every month from now on, so I'll let them off with this one. I really do want to know what you think of Blade so far. Remember, things are subject to change until they're official. The devs could change things up. They could even see our feedback based on this leak and decide to tweak things before he's even released, which could make for a pretty smooth flowing experience. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.